and with some ugly and outrageously low totals this week. And we're not talking Army Navy. We're talking Pat Steelers first off on Thursday Night Football. Ace here is considering betting under 7.5 total points. It is 80-1. Raybon, this game's disgusting, but under 7.5 total points. Is Ace on to something or mixing a water time?
I'm going to say mixing the water because you're obviously chasing. We saw that 6-0 game last week. Those happen once in a blue moon. And the Patriots have happened to have, I think, 3 of them where they've held the opponent to 10 or fewer points and lost the game. But under 7.5, I feel like you're chasing. You still got 2 bad quarterbacks who can turn, at least 2 bad quarterbacks. I mean, who knows who we'll see in this game, because both of these guys are at risk for benching. But turnovers, you always got to remember turnovers. This game will be in Pittsburgh, so TJ Watt could outscore your bet all by himself, and I only say that because he has. So if you're going to chase something like that, remember that the opposite is true as well. You had TJ Watt and the Steelers defense scored 2 touchdowns, I believe, against the Browns earlier in the year. So it's a chase. I like where your head is at. There's not going to be many points scored, but I think you look at unders on, receiving props, things like that. Just going under 7.5. I know it's juicy, but I think you're chasing. So got to tell you, mixing the water there.
I mean, it's fair enough. Maybe a defensive score, a Pittsburgh defensive score. You might be in a better luck there. Some sort of same game parlay, all correlated with unders, because you could get a quarterback backpedaling here that throws it right into the arms of a defensive lineman. Mm-hmm. Stuckey, do you concur on the matter here?
Yeah, I mean, the total's super low with 2 horrible offenses, so the frequency is going to be higher, but I would imagine games that end with 7 or fewer points is probably close to like 0.1%.
Patriots have all of them.
You're looking at true odds on all games. Now, obviously, the distribution is going to be different because the total is super low here, but I mean, I would need much more than this current price. And yeah, you just got to mix it with water in general for wanting to bet this horrendous game.
Pittsburgh defense plus 650 to score a touchdown this week. Just to give context. All right, let's go to our next one. Let's go to Shred Narbro on Twitter. It says, no touchdowns in the Browns-Jaguars game. Backup quarterbacks, yes, Joe Flacco and CJ Beathard. Backup quarterbacks plus 30-mile-per-hour wins. Now, I'm saying it out loud, maybe just a 0-0 tie, which you didn't give odds on that. Okay, no touchdowns to be scored. Raybon, it's kind of the same theme as Pittsburgh, New England. Does Shred Narbro need to mix in a water?
Yes, I'm going to say yes. And this is because I'm starting to sense a trend here. Yes. And this is why everyone has to mix in a water, because when you see low totals and they're getting lower, that's in your head as a bettor. That should be the time when you're thinking contrarian, where you're thinking, okay, maybe I'll let these, keep falling and then I'll go over. Like, you don't want to be just chasing the market. And I feel like both of these first 2 bets that we've been presented with, it's kind of people looking at these games and kind of chasing the market. And first of all, we're 5 days out right now. So I've seen 30-mile-per-hour winds at one weather site. I've seen, 17-mile-per-hour at another. These are models and predictions just like anything else. So we could get to Sunday and those 30-mile-an-hour winds could turn to, 15 or something like that, which is a significant difference. So, and you also got to remember, again, turnovers. These, you have good defenses involved here. These defenses can easily score touchdowns, whether it's pick sixes, fumbles, special teams. So yeah, mix in a water. I just don't like the way people are thinking. It's too obvious. When it's too obvious, that's usually a sign to go the other direction.
Yeah, Stuck, do you have anything to add on that as far as advice you'd pose to, because like Raybon hits the nail on the head. Like, it's kind of getting out of control and people want to just ride the trends. Like, the books get it. Like, in week 14, they know too that the under trend, and you're under, but anything to add to Raybon?
Yeah, there's not enough value in this number. I would also say the Jags defense is not good. And they have injuries too. And there's also injuries on the Jacksonville offensive line, and their center's been the worst in the league. They're down a couple tackles now, and they're going up against the Browns front and with a quarterback who's not mobile. That is just a disaster waiting to happen with turnovers, strip sacks. And by the way, Flacco I assume he's going to start. He's looked pretty good. He's looked like the best Browns quarterback. And what wins will help with, it looks like Goodwin's going to play. He was back at practice today. He has he had 250 air yards to Moore, his old buddy from the Jets last week. Flacco can still throw a deep ball, throw in wind, and this bad Jag secondary, PIs. You're going to get some PIs all the way down the field. So, yeah, there's not enough value here for me to play it. Although I would be interested. I'd be more interested in the Jaguars not to score a point, to get shut out or not. I don't know. I'm not really a prop player, but I just don't see CJ Beathard on a short week in a banged up offensive line. He can't move against this defensive front. Looks like Denzel Ward's going to be back too. No Christian Kirk. So the Browns are giving up 10 points per game at home. 10.
Yeah.
So, there's going to be some weather. It's going to be tough for the Jags offense here. That Browns defense in front of that crowd. I'll actually be at the game. I go to the Ravens Browns game every year for the past 10. It's always in December, but this year, whatever reason, it was in September, and I have too much stuff to do with college football. But there's only one college football game this weekend, so I told my friends who I go up and visit. I was like, all right, well, let me just come up for Jags Browns, thinking, we'll have a good time. It's going to be two teams in the AFC. This is before the season, AFC playoff race, and they still are. They're two playoff teams right now. Watson versus Trevor Lawrence. Now I got CJ Beathard versus Joe Flacco in 20 to 30 mile an hour winds and torrential downpour. So yeah, I might have picked the worst NFL game of the season besides Steelers Patriots on Thursday night. The good thing is, right behind my friend's seats where we're sitting, there's a bar, and they have all the games on in there, and that's where I will be most of the time after the Browns go up 3-0, which should be enough.
Yeah, Stuck. Make sure to mix in the water for planning to go to a Browns Jags game like 4 months in advance. That doesn't sound optimal.
It just shows, maybe the NFL we can kind of bail them out a little bit on predicting these primetime games ahead of the season, how bad they are. Or even Stuckey, who knows his stuff, couldn't figure it out. He tried to, think in advance what would be a good game, and the NFL
it's the only one I can go to, so it was by default. But they are both in the. It's a meaningful game. If the season ended today, both would be in the playoffs. So. Yeah, I bet the Browns, so at least I'll have action on it.
The AFC playoffs are going to be so bad if we, instead of Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, we get
Stroud.
we get some
Stroud,
combination.
Herbert,
we get some combination of
Pickett,
Minshew. Browning, Beathard. Oh my goodness. It's giving me nightmares.
Yeah, it looks like unless the Bills get in, it looks like a 3-man race, a 3-team race in both the NFC and the AFC, in my opinion. The Bills are the 7th team that can throw a wrench into that. And the AFC playoffs were setting up to be a gauntlet, but all these quarterback injuries.
And Tank Dell would have been fun if Houston got in. It's rough.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Every time you think it's getting better. Stuckey, say hi to our guy Scott for me too in Cleveland. Good friend.
That's where I'll be staying.
Love him. Say hello to him for me. Speaking of your Ravens, Stuck, the Rams are going to Baltimore. They're 7-point dogs. Our next question here, to possibly mix in a water, is Rams money line upset Baltimore outright. We know how Baltimore has looked at home against NFC teams recently this season, just pounding them. Raybon, does this person need to mix in the water?
I mean, I would always defer to Stuckey on all Ravens matters not involving the Cleveland Browns, but I'll just say, they're Baltimore coming off a bye, and the Rams are the ones traveling. Baltimore's, they're both pretty good running teams, but Baltimore has the better run defense. This doesn't profile as the usual sleepy spot for Baltimore. They do struggle as a favorite, but they, like you mentioned, they do also crush against NFC teams. So personally, it wasn't really on my radar as a sleepy Baltimore spot, but I'll let Stuckey kind of take it away here.
Yeah, I don't see it. The Ravens can play. I'm waiting on a couple. Let me see if there's a. Yeah, it looks like Marlon Humphrey's going to play. Not confirmed yet, but if so, they can play a lot more man, and they can get pressure on Stafford, and that's how you crush this Rams offense in weather too. You don't want to not be able to get pressure, sit back in zones. That's where Stafford will crush you. But yeah, Ravens off of a bye, where Harbaugh has been very good historically, and I would take their run defense with projected weather any day of the week over the Rams. And I think there's just a big class difference here. And if you look at what the Rams, the Rams have, it's still on paper, it's one of the worst defenses in the league. And the Rams they've been better than, I think anyone would have projected coming into the season. And, they're in the playoff mix now. Let's look at what they've done the past. I mean, they beat the Cardinals and the Browns with all their backups the past 2 weeks. Then they beat the Seahawks by 1. You got to remember, this is a team that, lost at home to the Steelers. They got dominated by the Cowboys. Most of their wins this year are I'm trying to remember who they even beat. They beat the Cardinals twice.
That'll do it.
The Seahawks, who they own.
Seahawks twice. Cardinals twice. A lot of division wins.
And then the Browns backups. This is still a bad team.
And they're a finesse team too. They're a finesse team that thrives, playing in one of the best stadiums in the league in SoFi. But now you got to go and win in wind and rain across the country to a physical Baltimore team. The more I think about it, the less I like it.
They don't fit the profile.
Lamar Jackson, first half spread numbers, they're pretty well documented. 27-10-1 against the spread. 21-17-1 first half spread at home. That number reflects that because it's at 4.5 for first half. Because I remember that was a big play. A lot of folks at Action had when they played San Diego, the Chargers a few Sundays ago, and then of course the Zay Flowers late touchdown because they kind of let off the gas to kind of Raybon's point. Second half, Chargers kind of have some life, and they pulled that Zay Flowers score out of their bum at the end to get that victory.